What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets, Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician, Dane Martinez, and we continue to look at what the 2025 green and white are going to look like in between minicamp and official training camp, which starts a little bit later in the middle of next month. And I gotta tell you, one guy that I am starting to really think is going to be primed for a much bigger role is Brilen Allen, the second-year running back out of Wisconsin. I mean, this guy was literally the youngest player in the entire NFL last year. He was only 20 years old, for goodness sakes, and he flashed at times behind Breece Hall. But remember, Aaron Glenn has said that he likes all of his running backs, and one of the things I've been talking about here on Jets Latest is that they're very intentional with the way they are going to use guys. I've been saying this in the wide receiver room, right? With guys like Arian Smith going over the top, guys like Josh Reynolds that can be kind of a possession receiver, what they could potentially use Malachi Corley for. We've been talking about the intentional use of guys in the defensive secondary as well. But I think Brilen Allen, and I've said this before, really has the opportunity, as the Jets maybe look a little bit like the Detroit Lions on offense. I think Brilen Allen can really play that David Montgomery role, that Knuckles role of Sonic and Knuckles, right? And remember, Brilen Allen absolutely bulked up and looks like a monster in minicamp. And quite frankly, it sounds like Brilen Allen is excited and interested in that role, especially with the skill set, with the physicality, with the aggressiveness, with the violence that he is prepared to bring. Check this out, what he had to say about it. He goes, AG said he was impressed with what he saw last year, and I think that's all I needed to hear. As long as they know what I can do, I know those opportunities are going to come, and it's on me to make the most of them. I just want to make my impact felt in every way that I can, and do my part the best I can. I just really want to hone in on my superpower, which is being a downhill physical runner. And by the time those first couple of series are over, I want to make sure people don't want to tackle me anymore, right? So he is embracing that. He is a big dude. He was used in that role a little bit last year, but really more just to kind of spell Breece Hall on every third drive. He had a great kind of stretch in weeks like 3, 4, 5, and 6, when I thought as a fantasy analyst that he had standalone fantasy value, right? But I do believe that much like in Detroit, where they have Jahmyr Gibbs and then David Montgomery as the short yardage back, as the goal line back, Brilen Allen is going to play that role, and he was kind of primed and fits that. Check it out. He converted all 9 of his 3rd and 1s last season. He also had a 51.1 success rate. Now, what a success rate is, that's a metric that kind of measures if you stay on schedule, right? Like, not the explosive runs per se, but if on first down, if you get 4 or more yards. On second down, if you get more than half of the yards to go. And if you convert on 3rd down and 4th down. He converted all 9 of his 3rd and 1s, and he had a 51.1% success rate. You see that he only ran for 334 yards, but he had 3 touchdowns, and when you add in his receiving chops, he actually had 5.5 yards per touch. I actually believe that they're going to use Breece Hall more as a receiving back, where he has that experience, where he stands out as one of the better receiving backs in the NFL. And then when they need him in 3rd and short near the goal line, Brilen Allen is going to have that role. He looks the part. He has been effective in that kind of role. And I actually think Brilen Allen is going to be a big piece of what they do with him, and of course Justin Fields doing the tush push as well. I believe behind this new kind of young, good offensive line, the Jets will be very effective in short yardage situations. And if they're not, they will have to kick field goals, right? And we made news this week in that department as well. The Jets have added, quote unquote, the thicker kicker to their kicking competition. They actually cut Anders Carlson, who was someone they had, and they had Caden Davis, a undrafted free agent out of Ole Miss, and they added Harrison Mevis to the equation. I mean, they call him the thicker kicker because he was 242 pounds, but Mevis was effective over at Missouri in college. I mean, he converted 86 of his 103 field goals. He had an SEC record. He kicked a 61-yard field goal as the gun went off to beat Kansas State a couple of years ago, right? So pressure situation. He was a first-team All-American kicker back in 2021. He was an All-SEC kicker, much the same way Caden Davis was an All-SEC kicker. Remember, the Jets really bringing on a lot of that SEC talent. And then he went to the UFL. Okay, and last year in the UFL, he was with the Birmingham Stallions. Okay, he converted 20 of his 21 field goal opportunities, over 95%, was perfect from 50 yards and in, and then even hit 5 of 6 from 50 yards and deeper. And Caden Davis also has a reputation, has great stats from being able to get the 50-plus yard field goal. So one thing that I think is interesting, remember how we talk about how we're getting young? Remember how I talk about how we have competition at every position? Well, I have mentioned this before. That happened in special teams as well. Remember, we had Thomas Morstead as a punter. He was let go. We had Greg the Leg Zerline. He was let go. Morstead and Zerline were two of like the only guys on the roster that were over 30 years of age. They are both gone, and we now have young competition at those positions as well. It's going to be Caden Davis or Harrison Mevis at kicker, and then heck, at punter, it's going to be Austin McNamara or Kai Kroger. Remember, we brought in both of those guys who both, as punters, were all-conference or all-American. Kai Kroger, remember, also out of South Carolina, has the experience of a lot of fake punts and throwing the ball as well. So just once again, out with the old and in with the new. Tyrod Taylor is the only member of this Jets roster that is over 30 years old. They are bringing in youth, they are bringing in competition, and the thicker kicker has been added to that as well. We'll see what Memphis does, but not only in college, but in the UFL last year, a professional league, he was really effective, and these guys, both Davis and Mevis, can kind of hit it from deep. So we'll see. We'll let the best man win at the kicking position and at the punting position. But again, resetting the deck, bringing in young, talented kids with a chip on their shoulder, ready to perform for Aaron Glenn and this new version of Green and White. Talking about performance here, right? And by the way, before I start getting into this, please do not at me. Please do not yell at me in the comments. I am saying this next part slightly tongue-in-cheek. But remember, I gave you the Jets win total, and I said how Vegas and the sportsbook don't necessarily believe in the Jets in the same way that we do here on Jets Latest, because they have a 5.5 win total, because they have the longest odds to win the division, one of the longest odds to win the AFC. But you know who does believe in the Jets, Jets? It's the Madden football game, okay? Because you know how players are always into, like, what are their ratings on Madden? What's their speed rating? What's their overall rating? Well, it's not only players that get rated. Overall teams get rated as well. And wouldn't you know it, the Jets have one of the higher ratings in the NFL. There you see the Jets with an 86 overall rating, right? So while they're the third lowest in the sports book with only a 5.5 win total, it's only the Titans and the Browns in the AFC that are lower. They have the same win total at 5.5, but their win totals are juiced to the under, making you think that it's favorite that they go under 5.5 wins, whereas the Jets are juiced to the over, making you think it's the favorite that they'll go over 5.5 wins, right? So they're the third lowest win total in the AFC. Only the Saints and the Giants are 5.5 juiced to the under in the NFC. Madden, however, rates them as an 86 overall. That is on par with the Eagles, who just won the Super Bowl, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who many people believe are a quality team, and if you look at the ratings again, quite frankly, they're one of the top 10 teams in the entire NFL. So listen, do I think that necessarily that means they're going to be one of the top 10 teams in the NFL? No. I was just saying that it is interesting that when, the gambling world, when the sports book does not think highly of the Jets, when you have a video game that really takes into account the actual talent, the attributes, the skill set of the people on the roster, somehow the Jets grade out to be much, much better. So I did think that was interesting. Of course, you got to take that with a grain of salt, right? But it is interesting when you see teams like the Ravens, teams like the Chiefs, teams like the Lions, the Bengals, the Eagles, as really the only teams that have a better rating as per their kind of skill set, as per the actual quality of the roster. I do think it kind of speaks to the fact that maybe the actual talent on this roster is under-respected a little bit. I look at every position group, offensive line, the running back room, our linebacking core, our edge rushing duo. And I really think that they are underrespected. I've been talking about guys like Garrett Wilson being underrespected vis-a-vis the top wide receivers in the league and a lot of other places as well. So maybe if you take the reputation out of it, maybe if you take just the attributes and skill set of some of these players, we actually grade out to be one of the better talent rosters on paper in the NFL. And if Aaron Glenn can do something with this, we are definitely on our way up. But that'll do it for this episode of Jets Latest. As always, watch these videos, like these videos, subscribe to the Jets Latest channel, and tell a Jets fan friend to tell a Jets fan friend. If you want to hear more from me, the spitting statistician Dane Martinez, you can always follow me on social media at Spittin' Speeds. Hit me up over there. Engage with me in the comments. I love responding to everybody talking about the JETS, Jets. I am also the host of the FTN Fantasy Show over on Sirius XM Channel 87. We do more than talk about just the Jets. We talk about everything, because now, as we're starting to get into July, training camp will open, and that also means fantasy football season is getting ready to be upon us. So over there on the FTN Fantasy Show, we talk about getting you ready for fantasy football season, win your leagues, and win that cash. FTN is a great website with a lot of data, a lot of content, a lot of projections and tools to help you be a better sports bettor and a better fantasy player, to be sure. But if you want the green and white, you got to keep it locked right here to Jets Latest. We will be back next week, continuing to get you ready, seeing what we are seeing, getting ready for training camp for what should be a really fun season for the JETS Jets. That'll do it from here. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.